and let's say you work next to them. You have the cubicle next to them, right? When they're walking in, they're allowed to ask you, hey, where are you from? They're allowed to ask you, what's your address? But that's it, you know? And you're allowed to say, I'm not talking to you, buddy. Get out of here, right? And that, I think anybody would say, is a fairly settled aspect of federal immigration enforcement, okay? But that's not what they're doing anymore. And you may have read about this, but it's not particularly sexy. They have a new move, and the new move is they find out that you're in this classroom and you're illegal, right? And they know you're in this classroom. And so what they'll do is they'll bring, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of armed agents, hundreds, no exaggeration, and they'll bar the doors, right? And they'll come in and they'll take everybody's computer away. Everybody's, not just yours, they'll take everybody's computer away. And they take everyone and they put them in these little rooms, and they hold them there under armed guard. And they keep them there, and they say, all right, who's illegal? And they have all the illegals go over to the side, right? Which is a mistake because then you've self-identified as illegal, but that's another question. But the point is, they go through everybody. They talk to you, and then they talk to you, they talk to you. And they won't let you leave. You can't go to the bathroom without an armed guard. You certainly can't leave the building. And you're all sitting with glazed stares, and I appreciate that. But I would hope that pisses you off. I would hope that makes you indignant. Simply because, the government is taking a position now that as long as there's one person in this room that they think is illegal, they can just hold you here. And that's not, it's really not the country I think I live in. And it's a real problem, and I'll tell you why it's a real problem. Because let's say we lose this case, right? And the government, the judge in Texas issues an order, and she says, we hereby find that because of probable cause and situation at hand, immigration officials executing a warrant have the right to detain individuals who are present in company with the illegal person. That's their order. And you say to yourself, well, it's not that bad. Really, I sit in a room all the time. I'm in college. It's all I do anyway. It's no big deal, right? But see, here's what happens. The next thing that happens is, you guys know SB 1070, the Arizona law, right? Okay. Next thing that happens is there's a guy in Arizona, and he goes into a building, and there's local cops, but they're operating under SB 1070, so they figure we're going after immigration, right? This is the same thing. They do the exact same thing. They hold everybody there, lock them in a room, process them out. So somebody sues. Now all the judge has to say is, well, it's already well established that federal immigration officials have the right to detain persons for any amount of time while they execute a warrant, blah, 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 blah. This is simply a situation where state officials are operating under SB 1070. They stand in the stead of federal immigration officials of rules the same. And that doesn't sound too crazy, right? You can see how you get there. Next thing that happens, it's state police officers and not doing immigration, right? They're just doing regular state law. They're just doing whatever it is the state cops do. They come here, they know, I don't mean to point you, I'm sorry. They know you have marijuana, right? And they want to bust you. And they come in the door, same thing, block everybody down. And they go through everybody, search everybody's bags for marijuana. Now what's the order that you get from the judge? The order is, it's already well established. State officials, working under the color of immigration enforcement, have the right to detain any person who's present in any one location and process them out before they release them, right? That's it. At that point, all a cop has to say forever is, I knew this guy was here illegally, they were in the same room with him, I arrested him. And again, I would hope that raises your hackles, as it were, or at least causes you to question the importance of these questions, because these things do matter, and they can affect you in your day-to-day life. Has anybody here been arrested? You've been arrested? How were the cops? Were they miserable, or?
Depends.
Oh, okay, nice. Separate incidents. Did you feel that you could push back against them?
It would have been wise. What is it going to take?
Dead to rights, as it were? Well, let me ask you a different question. This is probably not a fair question to put you on the spot. Has anybody been detained? Stopped by the cops? Yeah? Did you push back against them? No, you just did what they said. See, that's what people do. That's what people do all the time. I did it. Somebody broke into my apartment in Santa Monica, and I called the cops. And 6 hours later, they showed up. And they wanted to do a DNA swap, right? And before I knew what I was doing, I was like, no, what's wrong? It was ridiculous. Just ridiculous. And, if you care about civil liberties, which I assume you guys do, I assume that's why you're here, It should bother you. It should bother you that law enforcement is exercising a right to detain people without probable cause or without a warrant. Because that's generally the rule, right? They can't stop you unless they have a reason to. And in this case, in these Swift race cases, they're not. There is no probable cause. And what they're doing is so sleazy. The first place they did this, our lawsuit, it's all these meatpacking plants. And so their big defense is, well, you know, there's all these killing machines and there's guns and knives and everything around. So for officer safety, we have to collect everyone. And you know, it's defensible. It's not completely crazy to suggest that that's a real position to take. But the problem is that they kept doing it. They did it at a printer company up in the valley. They did it at a computer company up in the valley. They did it at some other tiny little place in Mississippi. The exact same process, where there isn't killing machines. But, you know, the mindset is now, well, this is how we do it. This is our process. The other case that I brought for you guys, are there any questions about that kind of stuff? Yes.
How stringent are the requirements to establish probable cause to get a warrant in different instances?
To get a warrant? Well, it's different. For a cop to find probable cause to detain you, he has to have individualized, articulable reasons. So he has to be able to say things about you individually that don't apply to him, that cause him to think that you're doing something illegal. And it could be, you know, I saw him put something in his pocket and da-da-da-da-da. It cannot be that you're in the cubicle next to him. At least, I think that's unreasonable. For a judge, I think the standard is the same, but the test is probably a little higher to get a warrant. Because a warrant, as you guys probably know, allows officers to go beyond just your individual person, right? You know, usually with a search warrant, they can look anywhere within which you could reasonably get a hold of. So like if they had a warrant for your house, right? They could go into your bedroom. And if they were looking for anything that was yay big, they can open anything that could possibly hide anything yay big. Not to imply that you have anything illegal to hide from the cops. So SB 1070, you guys know SB 1070? Yes, you're aware of SB 1070? Yes, anyone not know what SB 1070 is? You know?
Oh, I do.
Okay.
I just had a question.
Oh, no, fire away, please.
That rule about probable cause, is that just concerned like because all you talked about was buildings. What if they were like in a public park or like a movie theater?
You mean to like search you?
Yeah, you know how I said if a person is with an individual, like what if there was a group party at a public park? Could they do the same thing?
The rule remains the same, right? They have to have probable cause to search you. They're allowed to do this thing called a custodial stop. If you're walking down the street and the cop thinks you might be up to something shady, he can stop you and like do one of these to make sure you don't have a gun. And the standard to make a custodial stop is lower than probable cause. He can't arrest you, right? But no, I mean, the police use a cop so degrading. A police officer should always be able to like articulate why he's detaining you. And you hanging out with some shady guys should not rise to the level of a detention, right? Now, I mean, but just like you were saying, right? If you get stopped with your friends, and the cop's there, and he's all, right? And he's got 6 other cops there, and they're doing their thing, and you don't walk away, he's not really detaining you at that point. He asked you a question, Your Honor, and he answered my question, Your Honor. And I asked if I could search his pockets, Your Honor, and he says, sure. Because people do, they cave back right in front of a cop, you know? Especially kids, people who are your age, where you've got a lot, I mean, your futures matter. You don't want to get arrested now. You think, oh my God, I can't get into law school. I'll never work at the Center for Human Rights. It's going to be a disaster. And police officers know that, and that's something they think about. And I'm not for one second suggesting if you ever get stopped by the cops to give them the finger and run away. But like, I mean, you should not be afraid if a cop says, you know, would you mind if I searched your person? To say, yeah, I wouldn't mind. I don't think that's appropriate, you know? A cop asks you, you tell him, and he says, what are you doing? He says, I'm standing here. You know, you don't have to give your life away. You know, again, you can be respectful. You don't have to piss them off. You don't have to call them jerk or what have you. But there's nothing wrong with standing on your rights. You know, the way our system works, the Constitution, the way it works is we retain all the power. Powers, the general authority of society is reserved to the individuals. And it's the states and the agencies that have to pull power back, take it away from us. They have to prove why they're doing something. Does that make any sense? Yeah. So like if a cop wants to arrest you, he has to demonstrate why he's arresting you. It's not the cops can just arrest you. And you have to say, no, you can't arrest me because here's why. Because I'm not doing anything illegal. I prove you that I'm innocent, right? The whole innocent until proven guilty.